Sure. Oh, the invocation, I forgot. All right. Oh. Start the invocation. Om Ajnanatimurandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmadjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobisham Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagana Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sada Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Dhurubhascha Kripa Sindhu Devascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Alright, so we're going to do memorization verses. I am. Test. Alright. I'm going to do the verses 1.1. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dhammacete Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavasaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Dehonosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantaka praptir dhirastatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. 240. Neha vikramana shosti pratyavayo navidyate svaparanyasya dharmasya jayate mahato bhaya. In this endeavor, there is no loss of recognition, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Yagyata karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice of Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. 327. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karman sarvasa ahamkara vimudhatma karta iti manate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. 337. Shri Bhagavan Vasha Kamesha Krodesha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapatma Vidiyena Meha Vairina. The Supreme Personality Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. 4-6. Ajopi san avyayatma, bhutanam ishwaropi san, prakritim swamadisaya, samabhavami atmaya. Although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. 5-6. Sannyasyastu mahavaho dukkam aptum ayogata yoga yukto muni brahma nachirena digachati. Merely renouncing all activities and not engaging in devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. 647. Yoginam api sarvesham adgatena antaratmana sadhavan bhajate roma sabe yukta namodaha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. 7-7. Matta bhagavananya kinchedasi dhanandaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls strung on a thread. 7-20. Kamaiste sperhita jnanam prapadyante nyadevata tam tam niyamam asaya prakritya niyatasaya. All the things you haven't used when interpretations of worship according to their own natures. 9-14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya didavata namasyantasya mam bhaktya nityayukta vaste. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. 9-26. Patram pishram phalantoyam yome asnami prayatmana. If an offers me with love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or whatever, I'll accept.
Would anybody mind if we turned up the heat?
The heat is
Take your shoes.
yeah.
Take your phone.
No, I mean make it hot. Make it hot.
Yeah.
Hotter?
Well, I guess I'm the one who's called.
Yeah, if you want to take off your shoes.
Okay.
I have to save money also for the temples. Okay. But if it gets too cold, it's fine.
Okay, that's cool.
We could turn the fans off actually. All right, so the verses for today are 26, chapter 9. It's funny, we were reading these verses for memorization. It reminded me of my childhood because in India there's a lot of rote learning. You just learn everything, you spit it out. Our teachers used to joke with us. They say, you learn everything, you come, you vomit it off the papers, and then you go back home, you don't learn anything. And we're like, well, that's what everyone expects from us. And we had Sanskrit, of course, so we would learn different verses. I was thinking, unfortunately, they never taught us Bhagavad Gita verses. There's all kinds of verses from all over the place. And I was thinking about it in context of today's verses, because the verses today talk about demigod worship and all these other different sorts of worship. And this the whole idea that the Vedas are so vast, but there's a very narrow focus. Actually, there's a very narrow slot which focuses on Krishna directly. So one can be expert or scholarly in so many aspects of Sanskrit or the Vedas, but they might still miss the point, which is actually the first verse, 920. Anyone wants to read the verse translation? So,
Those who
920.
study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly, purified of sinful reactions. They take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights.
So that's us in India drinking Soma juice and learning the verses. Sanskrit is it's challenging to learn Sanskrit. You have to first learn these tables. I started late. I started when I was 12. They normally, the students, they start when they were like 9 or 8 or something in our school system. So you learn these tables, which is pretty much teaches you how to the normal basic grammar of Sanskrit, how to frame sentences and so forth. That's what it really teaches you. But it's so tedious, actually, all these tables. You have to learn for different words that end with different endings, and the way different roots end. Based on that, they have a whole table about how they're going to be used grammatically for. There's not just singular and plural. There's also, what's the middle one? The two-person. There's that also. So, just imagine someone, in the Vedic times. Hey, how's it going? Are you here for just to see us? What we're about? All right. What's your name?
Isa.
Isa. Nice to meet you. My name is Shruti. If you have any questions, feel free. So we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita. For someone to learn Sanskrit, one has to go through all that as a kid, and then they learn Sanskrit, and then they might go to actually I want to learn some scriptures. They learn all kinds of scriptures. What are the 3 sections in the Vedas? What are the 3 khandas? Was that? Oh no, that's yeah. Yeah, so it's Karma Kanda, there's Jnana Kanda, and then there's Bhakti. Does anyone want to care to explain what Karma Kanda deals with?
Yoga in action.
Yoga in action, yeah. And on the ritualistic level, it's just fruitive activities where you just worship demigods, you do all these various pious activities, yes, to get a certain result, a certain pious result. So that's Karma Kanda. Anyone besides from this table want to explain what Jnana Kanda is? Any thoughts? What does it deal with? Yeah, knowledge. Yeah. Once I remember talking about last time where once one goes to the whole Karma Kanda stuff, they do all these various rituals, and they get pious results. They go to heavenly realms and come back down. And are you getting everything? I'm just kidding. And then then they go, then they think, oh, is this what life is all about? Just getting better off materially, and then they realize, well, maybe I'm spirit. There must be something spiritual about this whole system, whole setup. So there's that, and so that's where Jnana Kanda kind of comes in, where they realize, okay, I'm spirit, so there's God and so forth. There's also spirit. There's Brahman. There's a spirit, and so there are a lot of texts that deal with that, and there's still a lot of philosophical speculation that goes into Jnana Kanda, where they go through these various texts and philosophically speculate about it. And then finally, there's Bhakti, where one finally focuses on the personal aspect of the absolute truth, the person of Godhead, which is Krishna and his various incarnations. And so that's Bhakti, and that's primarily that is our process, Bhakti, and Jnana Kanda and Karma Kanda can be dovetailed into Bhakti, where you, as Jeff was pointing out, in Karma Yoga, you do these different. This one second, let me finish. You do a job for Krishna, or you do all kinds of things for Krishna, or you philosophically speculate for Krishna. There's intellectuals. They have intellect. They have to use in Krishna's service, so they speculate philosophically, so they can do that.
I was just hoping for a summarized definition of Bhakti Yoga, or Bhakti. What was it?
The Kanda. Kanda just means sections. So Bhakti literally means devotion service, and I guess it's going to come up in the further verses, but it literally means devotion service. So the funniest thing is that Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda is actually really tough. Especially if you want to do Jnana Kanda, you got to learn the Sanskrit, you got to learn all these texts. It's actually really, really tough. And Bhakti, in one sense, is easy, but it's also tough. The easy part is that whatever you have, you can offer to Krishna with love and devotion. The hard part is letting go of the false ego and realizing that you're not the doer, that the whole world doesn't revolve around me, that not everything depends on me. And that's sorry. What?
I gotta go too. I gotta go too.
Yeah. That's the hard part. And as simple as it sounds, to really practice it, to really realize it, it's actually tough. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of spiritual realizations to start realizing that we're not the doer, we're not the controller, and we're actually here to serve Krishna. So that's my bhakti in a nutshell definition. So that was 920. And so there was another aspect that I was thinking, which I wanted to point out, that in India there's so many schools of thoughts, and of course there's schools of thoughts in Karma Kanda line, Jnana Kanda line, and specifically Srila Prabhupada, who was the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, who came here in the 60s, and the line he comes from, their task or their service or their focus was to really hone this narrow sliver of bhakti, devotional service, and really just pass it down so that it actually ends up coming to the West. That is the glory of Srila Prabhupada and the line of teachers we come from, where they focus on that. They didn't lose sight of what is the purpose of all these Vedas. It's a huge set of texts. It's huge. It's humongous. You spend your whole life, you probably still not. I mean, just our texts are huge. What do you talk about the whole Vedas? It's practically, one has to be born in India. One has to learn Sanskrit from like day one. Yes. Leave that pacifier, baby. Learn some Sanskrit if you want to realize some spirituality. One has to learn Sanskrit from your kid. And I already mentioned all this. And so one has to do all these things just so that they can actually just study all the Vedas. And hopefully, if you live till age of 120, we'll actually read all of them for the first time. But the point being, it's huge. But the glory of the teachers in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line is that they kept to the essence for the benefit of everyone else. Everyone else who doesn't have time, and we got to do Facebook. It was for general public, people who have jobs, who have to go to school or whatever else they have to do, lead a normal life, regular life. For them, the sages and saints actually, they're essentially like PhD scholars. Our line is just really scholars and research scriptures over the years. And wrote tons of books. The Goswamis in mid-1500s wrote tons of books and it was glorious. When they wrote those books, it was such a monumental point in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism when the Goswamis wrote those books. And everyone was like, oh my God, finally the Goswamis wrote these books, because those books were the essence of the Vedas, and they established the principles of bhakti logically and based on scriptures, and that was what was going to keep on the line, and which did. And then Prabhupada came, of course, and translated everything in English. So that was very glorious at that point. It was like a big party when they brought out the book. We wrote the translations. So that was with the Goswamis. So that is, for me, that is the glory of, specifically, that's my thought, that for our teachers, that they passed on this very, it's almost like an open secret. And India is like, there's so much goes on in India, it's almost crazy. So much goes on for religion and spirituality, but the essence is kind of lost, really. It's there, but it is a book by Satyaraj Prabhu. He's a Hare Krishna devotee, The Hidden Glory of India. So any touches on that. So I just wanted to focus on that in this verse. And any thoughts so far? Any questions? Any questions, Isha? I'm just blabbering on. So just quickly, are you here for a class or you're just curious about the Gita?
Yeah, I was at Krishna lunch today.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry you had to come listen to me. I actually got called at 5:40. Can you give the 6:30 class? I was like, okay. And yeah, Akash?
I just wanted to ask you if I could save my random question for the end of class because I know I'll get on topic.
Sounds good. But I'll come back.
Okay.
I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, anyone wants to read 9:21?
When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus you see sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas, achieve only repeated birth and death.
So that's this verse is specifically referring to karma kanda. What happened? What do you think? It's like aha. Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. So again, the idea that oftentimes we have the idea in the general religious concept is that there's heaven, there's hell, there's earth in the middle. But Bhagavad Gita actually talks about how there's heaven, hell, and earth in the material realm, and then there's a spiritual realm. And actually, one can keep going up and down, back and forth, depending on their karma. It's just like Amazon. Or no, forget Amazon. It's like credit card. You build some credit, you have some credit, you spend it, and then you have some credit, you spend it, and then once it's spent in the heavenly realms, you come back down. And if you're in debt, you go to a lower realms. They send what are they called? The people who come after you for debt collect. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. And the Purport Prabhupada compares it to Ferris wheel, goes up and down. And so that's the whole idea of if one does follow the Vedas just for sense gratification, then that's what happens. So the question, one thought was, well, why is it there? Why did Krishna put this whole system to have sense gratification based on the scriptures? Yeah.
He gives us exactly what we want. There's some people who just want to try to enjoy material world. Go to these planets where they can be demigods or enjoy these amazing opulences.
Yeah.
So Krishna's just giving us what we
Krishna's
want.
giving us. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
It's kind of like weeding out the phonies out of this mechanism. If you're not like truly sincere, then you're only going to get so far, but it's still kind of within the sort of the trap, if you will.
The material realm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
think my point was more along the lines of it allows us in this human form to exercise our free will.
Yeah.
To how do we want to pursue life?
How do what? Sorry.
How we want to pursue life.
Pursue life.
And by reading in the Vedas, and particularly here in Gita, it's saying, hey, if you go down this path, this is what your results are. If you go down this path, this is what your results are. So, as an informed individual, you can make maybe better choices.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Krishna was like, well, you want to enjoy your okay, here's a what's it called, the instruction manual. Yeah. You can use it, and you can, especially the karma kanda section, the fruitive activity section. You can use it, you can worship a certain demigod to get a certain result. You can enjoy in that manner. But ultimately the hope is that it will click. This is like a Groundhog Day. It keeps happening again and again in different ways, Even in the movies, isn't it? Like he would die in different ways, isn't it? And he would do different things, but he would still die, and then wake up again. So it's kind of like that, And wait, did he die every day or no?
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. I forget. I've seen it such a long time ago. But that's kind of the point where, in one sense, it's like a loop, Not to be too dramatic about it, but like a matrix. But it is a loop where everyone thinks the goal of life is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. One time I studied political science at UF, and I took this course in Intro to International Relations, and essentially in that course we'd go through different theories and see what the different theories are, and we'd see how it would apply to the world and how it could change the world or help the world, or how it plays out in a war. So there's one is realistic theory. I actually don't remember many of those theories, but it's a realistic theory and some other theories and how they play out essentially amongst countries who have foreign relations. And we were going through these different theories, and one day it kind of just struck me, and I asked my professor actually, I said, doesn't matter what the theories are, but don't all these theories lead to just better sophisticated eating, sleeping, defending? I don't think I said mating, but and professor said, well, yeah, that's the point. And so you see that's the point, And so she agreed, and I was really appreciative of her honesty, because sometimes people get really defensive about it. And Prabhupada talks about it all the time, that like everyone in this world thinks that it's all about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are normal human functions. We're not saying you shouldn't eat, sleep, mate, and defend, but it's just normal human functions. But the point is that it's not all in all. That's just simple. And so one when in a human body, one has these proclivities, and it is only normal. But the question is, how can you use it in Krishna's service? And so to make it low purified, Krishna's like, well, here worship some demigods. You can do these pious acts, and then you can do these things, and in some kind of a religious setting. So that's a religion. That's like as a basic religion, you go to a church, you go to a temple, and the priest tells you do this ritual, do that ritual, and then you can do this. There's always ceremonies. Each tradition has ceremonies, all kinds of ceremonies. And the whole idea behind the ceremonies is like, okay, well, while we do these things, let's purify ourselves a little bit, gradually. So it's a very gradual process. But Bhagavad Gita talks more of a very far deeper spirituality, which is going to come in the next verses. Any thoughts so far? Yes,
I have to have a comment. We're talking about all in all, I just used to think like my cousin Jared. He had my material mindset was I thought that he had achieved perfection because he has a nice car, a nice house, and he's married, he has 2 kids, he has a dog, and he's successful.
The dog's important. It's crucial.
So it's just like that's kind of like my mentality is that, well, he's the perfect man because he has a high paying job, and he's married and he has kids and he has a nice house. So I felt like he's achieved everything that there is to achieve in life. From my point of view, because I've never achieved that. So that's how I used to look at perfection. Just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
How do you see it now? Now, if you look deeper into it, I said, well, he's not achieved perfection, because he still has issues, and he makes a lot of money, but he gets stressed out from his job, and like him and his wife, they go to the bars and they go drink vodka, so like that doesn't solve anything, and he eats meat all the time. And, I'm sure he has a lot of an artist just like, everybody else, just like me. So, money and success is not everything. That's how I see it.
Yeah, essentially, I guess that's so much substance. Money and success isn't the goal of human life.
Yeah.
The goal of human life is much deeper.
Yeah.
All right, the next verse, text 22. Anyone wants to read translation?
But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my fears of the form, so that I might carry what they lack and preserve what they have.
So this is this is something I really like, actually, this verse. And oftentimes in our lives we'll see how just when one acts for Krishna, when one has that little intention, I actually really want to do this no, and sometimes like even backtrack a little bit, not just for Krishna, but like even going beyond ourselves and doing something nice for someone else. So that by itself is something Krishna appreciates. And when one tries to do that, Krishna actually, he preserves what we have and he carries what we lack. And especially when we try to do it for Krishna, we definitely experience that. I've definitely experienced it. Where, especially actually, there's this tour we have to Mexico, where we travel all over Mexico and go to the beach and do. Oh, no, we set up these festivals all over Mexico, and essentially we do some cultural programs. We do kirtan. We share the Hare Krishna kirtan with the local populace. How was that? And then also we do some plays in Bhagavad Gita. Essentially, the whole point is share the message of Bhagavad Gita and just share kirtan, and we cook sanctified food prasadam, and we do that in around like I think 15 towns or villages, and we do it in around 3 weeks. We'd drive in the night in this bus, which has bunk beds. We'd sleep in the bus, wake up in a different city, set up the festival, do the whole thing, go to bed, wake up in a different city. And, it's when you're in a bus with 30 other people, it's interesting. And they're all young, and I'm young too, but I'm a grumpy old man. So they never wanted to go to sleep. I was like, we just put up a festival. It's like 10 o'clock. Aren't you tired? So we would do all these festivals, and but I felt like because our mood was that we want to share Krishna with others. It was always, the whole experience was always so amazing, and some other Krishna would always like help us in so many ways, and just the whole experience was just so uplifting. So I always felt during the whole tour, because I was trying to go out of my comfort zone to share Krishna with others. It was just a sweet reciprocation, essentially. That's what I felt. That Krishna was reciprocating like a person. I was, as I was taking a step towards him, he was taking a step towards me. So that was my realization, and I would often think about this. Like Krishna always preserves what we have and carries what we lack. And does anyone have any like stories or incidents where you felt like, oh, Krishna definitely carried what I lacked or preserved what I have? Anyone want to share?
I was doing a workshop on kirtan, and I really didn't know what to say. Because I was doing it with like Yusuf also and Kira, and they like read me what they were going to say, and I was like, you're taking up all the information. And what else can I say? And then I was like, all right, I'll just try to give my unique perspective on this. And I sat down and I felt all of a sudden like so confident, and like Krishna was just like talking through me and like letting me just be myself in that like talk or whatever, and give the information that I had, and it was really nice. So Krishna got my back.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts on this?
I think of it more in terms of, like, if I were to die right now, I would hope he would preserve what I have and show what I like.
Yeah.
So I can at least make some progress.
I'm thinking the same way.
I had an interesting experience now, I remember, and when I was in DC. From time to time, I think once a month or something, we would go out and distribute these Bhagavad Gitas. And one time it's almost like being a door-to-door salesman. And so we went to this apartment complex, and we were just distributing these books. And I think I didn't sell any books. I'm not a good salesman. So I didn't sell any books. So I was like, okay, well, I'm here, but I just want to share Krishna with others. And then knocked on this particular door. I just said, oh, Krishna, whatever you want. Wow. I don't know who's going to open the door, but whatever you want. I'm here. I'm just doing this as a service. So essentially, whatever you want. So I opened it. This guy opens the door, and he's from Egypt. And I was trying to tell him, oh, there's this books on chanting and meditation. And there's this book called the Bhagavad Gita. I seemed totally disinterested the whole time. And then somehow he noticed that I had this book called Chant Be Happy, which had a picture of George Harrison. And he was like, he goes, I love George Harrison. I was like, yeah, here, this book is on meditation, kirtan. And he really got into it. And he actually ended up taking the book. And my thought was that when we have that knowledge that, yes, we are actually not the doer, but we're just an instrument in Krishna's hands, then Krishna just flows through us. Things happen, and we are able to do service. When we actually have that understanding that we are Krishna's instrument, then automatically we're able to do way more than we could have done just on our own. That's another experience I had with that, connected to this verse. Any other thoughts? I think it's true.
A lot of times when I'm reading kirtan, sometimes I guess one point is I'll be playing and it sounds pretty good, and then like it sounds pretty good, and then right as I start thinking, I'm like, I'm the doer, and I'm thinking I'll hit a wrong note.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm scared, and I go back and I'm like, okay, it's not me.
Yeah.
And then other times I'll be playing, I'll be like playing the melodies, and I'll like, for one instance, we have a yoga club at University of Denver, so I was playing, and I just learned this melody, and it's really nice, and I was playing it, and then I was playing the first melody, and then I forgot what the second part of the tune was. I was like, oh, I have no idea. And I was like, while I was singing, I just prayed because I was like, please just, make it sound good. And then somehow or other, it just worked right into the second part and flowed smoothly. It's not a big deal, but it's nice to carry a smooth journey for the people involved in the meditation. So carry my lack of knowledge.
Yeah. And then ultimately, it's like this burden that gets relieved from us, that it's not just all on us. It's actually, in one sense, it's a burden. Of course, one has to be responsible and do whatever they think is needed to be done. But at the same time, just to have that relief that no, it's not that I'm actually doing this, that I'm in control. Actually, Krishna's in control, and whatever he wants, it will happen. And since Krishna is my friend, and I'm Krishna's friend, he wants the best for me. So sometimes things that happen for us might not look like the best for us. It might look like, what the heck is going on here? That's pretty much was me in Melbourne for 4 years. So what's going on? I'm into spirituality, but things aren't going quite the way I'd want it to, or this doesn't make sense. And that actually kind of ties in with this idea of worshiping Krishna and worshiping demigods. Because the whole idea of worshiping demigods, it's actually in the next verse. But the whole idea behind worshiping demigods is to get certain material benefits, for things to work a certain way. It's just a subtler science. In the regular world, you want something, you go for it. You want a career in this, whatever field, law, you go to school for undergrad, you go to school for law school, and so forth. And then with the Vedas, there's a subtler science where you worship demigods for certain results, for wealth, for fame, for this and that, and all kind of things with it. But what happens is you might get it through that route. And the thing is, you can get it through route of worshiping Krishna also. And you can, but the interesting thing about worshiping Krishna by the process of bhakti is that Krishna also purifies us spiritually. He makes us reflect more about our desires and why we want to do what we want to do. And he makes us come closer to him by thinking, how can I eventually use this in Krishna's service? Because ideally, a pure lover, devotee of the Lord, of Krishna, will be like, oh, I will do whatever you want, Krishna. But the fact is that, a lot of us have so many kind of desires, which is fine. But so we essentially use it in Krishna's service. And then as the verse says, Krishna preserves what we have and carries what we lack. And so that's the whole difference in worshiping demigods and worshiping Krishna. With demigods, it's a loop. You keep going up and down, up and down. Whereas worshiping Krishna, actually Krishna purifies our intentions and it's a lot more joyful process, to be very frank. Growing up in India is like, it's so damn ritualistic. the whole religious setting. It's just, you worship this god, that god. You put one step forward, you put one step back, and then you put the hand over there, and you put the stone over there, and you put the tilak. It's like all these rituals, It's just like, and the priest tells you what to do, and it's just so boring. Actually, I always found it boring. Going to temples was boring for me, and but with Krishna, it's more of a relationship, actually, where you build a relationship, and you just work towards whatever you want to do in life, and at the same time you make spiritual progress, because that's how Krishna works. So in that progress, so you're working towards something. So Krishna might actually, make your path a little interesting. To say it very in a very simple manner. And because Krishna will make you think. If you're really trying to do something for Krishna, Krishna will make you think about your intentions, your desires, and you do really want this, and there's all kinds of tests. So that's and it's and in the end, it's always very I guess I'll use the word enlightening. When you look back, it's like, yeah, this was actually, I learned a lot from this. All of you know my Maryland saga. I keep repeating it. So when I was in Maryland, we had a project, and things didn't go the way I wanted. But looking back, I can look back and I see, well, materially it was a failure. We didn't get the project done. But spiritually, for me, I felt like I had the experience of what it means to really depend on Krishna, and that is something I value. That is something that is something that I wouldn't. It's not something light. I wouldn't just give it off for something else. That was my experience. So I felt like even though the results didn't come out as I wanted it to, I actually got something better. It's like in the Bhagavatam, for a text, Dhruva Maharaj, where he wanted this huge kingdom, which he actually did eventually get. But when he saw Krishna, he said, "Oh, I was praying for broken pieces of glass, the real deal." That's not what he used, but that's not the wording he used. But the real deal is you. It's Vishnu, Krishna. What's that?
I was looking for broken glass, but I found the most valuable gem.
Yeah, I found the most valuable gem. Yeah, and people have that experience, So not that I found the most valuable gem, but I definitely found something better than what I was looking for. All right, so I actually kind of covered text 23 also.
Sure.
Yes, very good.
Just real quick, can you just explain? You say you were dependent on Krishna because you didn't have anything materially. Is that what you said? You needed his protection.
Well, what my realization was that. Let me think about it. My realization was that when I depended on Krishna, it just made it. Let me think. I guess materially didn't have much. Things weren't working out, but when I did depend on Krishna, things worked out. They still worked out very differently than I expected. But when I sincerely depended on Krishna, Krishna really reciprocated. Yeah, that was my experience. Like, it was that.
Look, the arrangement he made for you.
Sorry, what? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. And it was.
Learned something to apply.
Oh yeah, definitely. So it was a very different result. So I had a certain desire, and I was working towards it, but then it wasn't working out. And then I finally realized I have to depend on Krishna. And when I did that, Krishna just really purified me and had this, and there was a whole different outcome of the whole thing. But I was happy with it, and that's something Krishna wanted for me. And I was grateful for that experience of what it means to depend on Krishna, and depend on Krishna like, I depend on you, Krishna, so that I get this specific thing. Not like that, but like I depend on Krishna. Whatever you want to happen, I will accept it. But you are my shelter. I depend on you. You are my only shelter. I'll depend on you, and whatever you want, whatever you think should happen, I'll accept it, because I believe that you have the best interest. That was my thought process for one brief moment in 4 years. So I guess I cherish that experience.
Thanks for
Thanks for asking. So text 23 I kind of already covered, so I'll just read the translation. Those who are devotees of right, 23, is that where we at? 20, yeah. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, a son of Kunti. But they do so in a wrong way. I guess the one point which I didn't mention. Does anyone remember what analogy Prabhupada uses in the purport for this verse? What he talks about? Yeah. So there's the whole concept, the Vedic concept is that in this material realm, there's demigods who essentially run the universe. But then there's a supreme Lord, Krishna. And so people worship these demigods. So worshipping the demigods is compared to like watering the leaves on a tree. It's kind of pointless. If you want to water the tree, you water the root. So the root is Krishna himself. So when you worship Krishna, we ultimately, everyone else is satisfied. So that's one example. Another example Prabhupada gives is about it's a funny one where about, there's different parts of the body, right? And then one day all the parts of the body are like, why do we have to feed this stomach? Why do we work so hard to feed this one stomach? We should work for ourselves, and so we'll enjoy the food ourselves. So the hand tries to squish the food, and the tongue just tries to lick it, and the head tries to smush it, I guess. And so every part of the body is trying to enjoy this food independently of the stomach, of the whole digestive process. And then eventually the body dwindles because they can't really enjoy the food. So the idea is that these different parts of the body are like demigods, and then there's a stomach, which is Krishna, where everything has to go to Krishna because he's the source of everything. So all the sacrifices should be made for Krishna, and then in that way, everyone is actually benefited. So these are some analogies Prabhupada talks about. Any thoughts so far? I know I'm kind of going fast. Any thoughts? Any questions? All right. Anyone wants to read 24?
I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down.
And so it's 24. Okay, next. Anyone wants to read next verse?
Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me.
Oh, and then the last verse. Let's read.
One offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I will accept.
So in these verses, just Krishna is talking about essentially really focusing on the person. Krishna is really a person, and whatever we do, it's so reciprocal actually. Whatever we do for Krishna, Krishna just reciprocates. Like Krishna, I want this. Krishna, like, all right, here's the way to get this, whatever it is you want. And then if you want, and then someone who wants something from demigods, or so there's a whole process to worship demigods. And then there's also worshiping the ancestors, worshiping ghosts and spirits. And so essentially, at the time of death, whatever one has done throughout their life, that is actually building their consciousness. And at the time of death, one is going to think about what they've worked on all their lives. Because if you just think about it, if one focuses on something predominantly in their life, in their day, then when you go to bed, you tend to think about it. When, for example, when you're separated from your lover, what was that? Significant other. See, I didn't even have to say it. When you're separated from a significant other for whatever reasons, and you're going to bed, you think about the other person because you have thought about the other person so much. So that's consciousness, and that can be anything. there's a story Prabhupada talks about. There's a businessman. He was dying, and all his family was surrounding the businessman. And so the father asked, he said, "Oh, where is my wife?" He said, "Oh, dear husband, I'm here." And he said, "Where is my first son who I raised so dearly?" Like, "Oh, I'm here, father." "Where is my second son who was good for nothing but dear to me still?" Like, "I'm here." "Where's my third son?" "I'm here, father." And then he goes, "Well, who's at the store?" So, that's his that was his conscience as a businessman. Who's running the damn store? Everyone's here. So in the time of death, he's gonna think about business. And then so the same goes for all of us. Whatever we predominantly think about all our lives, that's what essentially we're gonna think about at the time of death. And so for those people who have that whole consciousness, but thinking about their ancestors or the worship, I guess when they worship them, I guess they'll predominantly think about it at the time of death and actually go to that realm. I don't know why they would think about ghosts and spirits, but anyways. But if they have that mode of worship and the mode of ignorance, they'll worship ghosts and spirits, and then they'll go there, based on people's desires. And then it goes to bhakti, where one, just by very simple acts of devotion, and one doesn't have to do Herculean tasks for God and lift mountains or whatever. Krishna just asks, if one offers me with love and devotion, leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I'll accept it. And it's almost adorable because there's such simple things, a leaf, flower, fruit, water, is you can find it anywhere. There's such simplicity to it, but the key thing is saying with love and devotion, and it's such a fulfilling thing when you experience love. When you experience love, when you experience that reciprocation, that one, you can just be yourself, but if you just with love and devotion, if you give something and the other person reciprocates, it's just such a nice feeling. The other person is not judging you based on how fat you are or whatever it is. And that's predominantly on my mind because I'm gaining weight. With the other person not judging you based on your weight or your skin color or how much money you make. Here's something funny. So I went. So in India, there's arranged marriage. So I went. And what happens is you go and meet their family first, and the family asks all kind of awkward questions. So I went to meet this girl's family, and the father asked me, "So how much money do you have in your bank account?" I was like, "All right." I was like, "Wow, that's not very loving." So I see what the point is. Like, well, how much money you have, how you can run a house, but I was like, okay, that's very nice. I take care of my daughter, but
So you're engaged?
Was that no? That's the main question. This ring. But with Krishna, it's like, when you have that experience that, yes, I can just do a very simple offering with love and devotion, and Krishna actually reciprocates. It's such an amazing feeling. And I'm sure that a lot of you have had that experience that Krishna reciprocates. And just, and actually, that is that relationship. Ultimately, that is the relationship we are seeking. Actually, that loving relationship with Krishna. There's so many relationships we have. We have parents, we have kids, we might have kids in the future, we have our better halves, and we have our worse halves. And there's so many relationships one has. And but ultimately, all these relationships are actually our attempts to have that loving relationship with Krishna. And of course, and all these relationships are of value for sure. But that ultimate relationship with Krishna there's something really deeply satisfying. And one cannot have that relationship with Krishna through karma kanda, the fruitive mentality, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to follow this dogma, I'm going to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, love of God. It doesn't quite work like that. So one can't, that dogma can't be there. And there has to be love. And that is the whole essence of the Bhagavad Gita, the crux of Bhagavad Gita, It's funny. It's simply love, and there's all this vast philosophy in the Vedas. There's all this scholarship, but ultimately, it's all summed up in this verse: with love and devotion, you offer me a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. And that Krishna, whatever I have, I offer it to you, and Krishna will accept it. And the amazing thing is that when he accepts it, then he reveals himself to us gradually, like what he's like and what he likes and what he doesn't like and so forth. And when he does that, then we learn more about what is Krishna like. Let me do, then that kind of desire arises more. It's just like any other loving relationship. When you really love someone, it's like when you. I want to say a funny story again. Says Nanda, a good friend of mine. I know what she likes and what she doesn't like. So for her birthday, it's funny. She never tells anybody when her birthday is because most people give her the wrong gift. So she's like, just don't bother because you're gonna give me a gift which I'm not gonna use. I'll try to sell it another day. So just don't bother. But she told me her birthday, and I was like, what would Nanda like? Nanda is just for those who don't know Nanda. Nanda is a very strong personality, just, a formidable figure at Krishna's. So I thought, what would Nanda like? And I found the perfect gift for her: a pepper spray. And she actually liked it. She was like, "This is great. I'll keep it for self-defense or whatever, And that was the funniest thing. I was like, "Oh, I actually like the gift." I passed the test. So when you love someone, you know what they like or they don't like, and then that's the same thing with Krishna.
So she can spray us when we get out of line.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anand is our Krishna launch manager. So yeah. So when you love someone, you gradually learn what they would like and not like, and then you give them that, and that is love. And and as we do that, that Krishna reveals himself more and more. There's that one line in the first canto which I love, and there's a purport by Prabhupada, and Prabhupada says that Krishna reveals himself just like how sun rises. So we can't control how when sun rises and how it rises, and so similarly, Krishna within our heart will reveal himself as due to his sweet will. So we make our loving gesture, and Krishna in due time reveals himself just because of his sweet will. We cannot enforce it, that when we try to enforce it, then that just becomes rituals and the standard, do this and God shall bestow upon you this, and that doesn't quite work like that. A deeper spirituality is really learning how to love God and doing it. And there's still practices, of course, but you do it with the mindset that, okay, I'm doing this for Krishna. I'm doing it to enhance my love for Krishna. And Prabhupada says that also, that true religion means that you're cultivating love for God. That's what true religion. It doesn't matter what religion it is, Hinduism or Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Scientology. If it's helping you to achieve love of God, then okay, it's something that works. It's actually really scientific. So those are my thoughts on this verse, the famous verse 926. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or comments?
Your chance is
Random.
I
Your random question.
Random totally off topic. It doesn't have anything to do with class, but I remember sitting there 2 months ago talking to Anand, and he said, if you serve Krishna, your leg's going to get better and all that, and it's not really getting better. And I think, what if?
Well, you can sue Anand then.
I just think that Krishna ever make better, and if he doesn't, how am I gonna deal with it?
I think I'm the most qualified person to answer that.
Okay.
I have type 1 diabetes.
Mm.
There will never be a cure for this.
Right.
I'm still practicing Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the answer to your leg, and I don't know. But But sometimes Krishna in his mercy, I'm burning off a crap ton of karma.
Yeah.
From my previous lives. And
Right.
stuff, or at least that's what I choose to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm allowing it to purify me. I'm not there yet. I try hard. And of course, you guys make the most awesome prasadam and that banana cream halva, which is like 5 units of insulin, not 4, like all the others. I'm learning and balancing everything. But sometimes just because we're dealing with hardships doesn't mean we're not being blessed by the Lord. We're just not recognizing the blessings.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to learn something from this.
Yeah.
And you just haven't gotten it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. And that's for me, like it took me from a very disorganized, not being able to start something and finish it kind of a person to develop that quality and character and attributes. So in my 30s when I was diagnosed, I was a mess.
And you learned how to deal with the pain.
I've learned how to deal with the situation, and that's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And I've also learned to accomplish things. Like I ran a marathon,
Wow.
not just once, but 3 times.
Wow.
So I can do things that, I can do the same thing as everybody else. It's just it's a hell of a lot harder for me to accomplish the same thing. It doesn't look like that at the starting line and at the finish line. But if you look at how much effort I have to put in to do stuff, the fact that I can do it, I could have done a whole lot more if I didn't have this condition. If you follow what I'm saying. So don't let a physical limitation hold you down. Definitely don't get wrapped up in it. It's there. Maybe it's permanent, maybe it's not.
Right.
It's all in Krishna's hands. And ultimately, this body will pass away. And it will be there anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, thank you.
I just have I like one of the sentences that Prabhupada writes in the purport of this verse. It says, no one can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by the simple method and thus attain the highest perfection of life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? So
Krishna wants only.
I think the key that I like really try to keep in mind is what you were saying before. It's love and devotion. So what is your consciousness? Where's your mind at? If you're so wrapped up in your material bodily affairs that you're not remembering that it's love and devotion, right? So how do we factor that in? And I know for myself when I try to keep to that things shift, and when I don't, they continue to go on the slippery slope. So maybe that's something you have to consider.
It's like, do we want to be in the? Well, yeah. There's body, then there's mind, then there's false ego, and then there's the spiritual, platform. So do we want to be on the mental platform where the mind is like, I don't know what's going on, like, this hurts and that hurts, and I don't know, I'm happy now. Do we want to be on that, or because the mind is just so crazy? I don't know about your minds, my mind is crazy. So do you want to be on that, or just be steady on the spiritual platform, and by love and devotion to Krishna? Okay.
I like what Jeff said. Love and devotion. Shift it.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.